It's time for the Film Crickets with Jay Fortier, Chris Martineau, and Melanie Howerton. On this week's episode, Jessica Burbank from TYT Network's Rebel HQ joined the Crickets and they review the 1994 American black comedy crime film, Pulp Fiction. Does it stand the test of time? Let's find out. Your Film Crickets are on now.
Hello and welcome everybody out there in this fine land of ours. Welcome back to another scintillating, I dare say hot, episode of the Film Crickets. I'm co-host Chris Martineau, joined by my two friends, Melanie Howerton and Jay Fortier. Say hi, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Say hi, Melanie. Hi, Melanie. It's good to have everybody here. And as Steve was saying at the introduction, again, much thanks to Steve Lavoie for doing our introductions every week. We are bringing into the fold today host of TYT Networks and Rebel HQ. We have Jessica Burbank. Say hello, Jessica.
Hello, y'all. Very happy to be on. I love what you all do here, watching the 70s, 80s movies. This is such a fun premise for a podcast, and super grateful that we're doing Pulp Fiction. This is a big film. We were considering a few different ones, and I'm very honored that I have the privilege of discussing Pulp Fiction.
Super. Before we get into that, and we decide, you know, how we feel about this movie by the end of it, Jessica, just tell us a little bit about what you do. Where can we find the TYT Network, and what's your show all about?
Yeah, for sure. So I started with TYT not too long ago. I cover stories, everything from, you know, politics, geopolitics, what's going on in the world, a lot of U.S. intervention history and how that relates to the news and what's going on in foreign affairs today. A lot about inflation. Everyone's talking about inflation, so I have a background in public policy.
That? Never heard of it.
Great question.
Just
it's
kidding.
Up for debate right now as well. Yeah, let's not get into that today. But yeah, a little bit of everything on YouTube, and then hopping on all of the shows, hosting on TYT, where we cover the news and tell people what we think about it. And we're not bought and sold by corporations like many news organizations are. So we really get to say what we think about the news and cover things that mainstream media doesn't.
Excellent. That sounds fantastic. We like that. Being on the hotbed of politics here in Washington, D.C., we kind of get it from all angles here. And whenever there's something fun, it always ruins traffic because there's always a rather large protest all the time. And you never know when the road's going to be locked. And that's fine. And we all have a right to that. Okay, so let's get into it. Jessica, you were saying before that we were mulling about different movies. We left it up to the guest. You decided on Pulp Fiction. Just give me a short, why Pulp Fiction? What's your history with this movie? When was the last time you saw it? Do you own it on DVD? What's your deal with Pulp Fiction? And I'm going to go around the horn and ask everybody else.
Great question. Everyone's got their own deal with Pulp Fiction, right? I'm not a movie person, which is crazy because I love
All right, it was nice having you on the show, Jessica. We'll be seeing you next time.
Sorry,
what the hell is this? I'm kidding.
Immediately
right,
just dropping bombs.
Yeah, right.
No, yeah. I just, I'm one of those weird people where, if I don't like it a few minutes in or even 20 minutes in, I will shut it off. And Pulp Fiction's just one of the few movies that really captivated my attention and kept it throughout the entire movie. Just an amazing film. And I first watched it at the end of a semester when I was in undergrad, and I remember everyone had left, and I was one of a few people left on campus, and my bus back home was the next day. And I was like, what am I gonna do? And I was just hanging out in my college dorm and just turned on Pulp Fiction, wanted to see what this movie was all about. And I've watched it so many times since, which is weird because I don't really watch movies, but I've watched this one a few times.
So all right, so word to public service announcement: if you're alone and don't have some time to kill, maybe not Pulp Fiction. Just no, I'm just kidding. No, absolutely.
Keep it light.
No, man. It speaks to some people's aesthetic, but it also it's a divisive movie because either it speaks to you or you're just like, what is this nonsense? I don't know what's going on. So let me go to Jay. Melanie, you're going to come up after Jay. Just giving you a warning. So Jay, what's your history with this movie?
Yeah, everybody was already talking about it, and I was in, I want to say my first year of college, and everybody was going it was right around when the Oscars were happening, when it was big. I did not see it in the theater, and then a little bit later, once it came out on video, I rented it and I watched it, and I was like, "What the hell was that?" In a good way, though. Like it was just like it really. Yeah. It's all the dialogue, everything kept you going. It just sort of grabbed you, and then I was like, I got to see that thing again because I was not ready. Like who is ready for Pulp Fiction when they've never seen it before? It's all like it's non-sequential. It's all over the place, but it all sort of gets put back together in like one neat puzzle, and that really, by the time the whole thing's over, it's like, whoa. What the hell was that? Like I said, in a good way. So I turned around. I had to go and watch it again. And I was like, wait, just wait. So like if I'm showing somebody, I'm like, don't jump yet. Because if they're ready to, it's like, wait, but check this out. We'll get into why in a bit. But Melanie,
okay,
I would
so
say
we already know
it's up to you now.
About spoiler alert. Okay, so we know this show is mostly spoiler alerts anyway. So
Yep.
I don't care if I tell people I like it. So, because the whole ending is you're trying to figure out if it holds up, if it stands the test of time. So, basically, the first time I saw this, I went to the movies to see it. And I couldn't wait to see it. But I remember leaving the movie theater thinking, did I like that? I'm not sure. I think I did. And then I had to watch it again. And then I was like, no, I really liked it. And then I'm telling you, and I've watched it a couple times since then. But when I was watching it the other night, I'm telling you, I'm like literally sitting here watching it going, this is the best movie ever made. I was like, this is just the best movie ever. And I enjoyed it even more than I had ever enjoyed it. And you really need to watch this movie multiple times to just notice every little detail of this movie. And I've always been a Quentin Tarantino fan. So, yeah, I mean, I love it. I don't care if I'm reading that right now, but I love it. And I did the first time I started, I watched it in the movies.
Sure. Melanie, it's hard not to gush about this movie. I mean, honestly, it's hard not to say because, again, if it's up your alley, you like, and Jessica's nodding and like everybody's like, it speaks to you on levels that like you didn't know were there, right? But if you're not into this, it's like trying to convince somebody that's not a fantasy fan to watch Lord of the Rings. Like, good luck. Like, or Star Wars. Like, hey, no, I got this great movie about space wizards. They're not going to give a shit. So I mean that's the thing. If you're not into that kind of movie, that's a hard sell. It really is. However, let me go back to my history with it. Yeah, I saw this movie. I heard about it. I saw it on video. I don't think I saw it in the movies. And yeah, my head exploded. I didn't really know what to think about it. I just know I liked it because, and I think we all can agree on this, is no movie like this had been made.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not even close. There's not a movie that not only stretched the boundaries of taste, I don't mean like distasteful, but the use of profanity and violence and still have you care about the characters. And no movie had done the nonlinear storytelling that had been done in books, but not like this. So again, let me get back to it. I saw it on video cassette, and then a friend of mine ripped a copy off of a laser disc. That's right, off of a laser disc. And so it was two videotapes because it couldn't fill one for whatever reason. I remember. No, the video disc had to be flipped.
Right.
That's right.
It
had to be flipped. So there was a pause.
One side, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yep, you had to flip it over. And I had a break in my video cassette, and I would actually, to tear a page from Jessica's playbook here, I used to put this on while trying to go to sleep. So that's how twisted and demented maybe Jessica and I are. And I would always get to kind of, and depending on how tired I was, it's like, oh, I got to the scene here. I mustn't have been that tired yet, Oh, I got to the the Bonnie scene. Oh, I guess I was pretty awake, right? So yeah, I used to wake up at 2 a.m. to Static, and then rewind Pulp Fiction and do it again later. So yeah, I like the movie. So anyhow, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about whether or not it stands the test of time. So I'm going to do the IMDb rundown, and then I'm going to ask some questions, and then I'm going to we'll have Jessica start and have everybody jump in. So here we go. So coming from IMDb, every week we try to figure out, we try to see if IMDb can actually sum this movie up in one sentence.
And it's not bad. I read it already.
Sometimes it's not bad. Okay, cool. So here we go. Pulp Fiction came out in 1994. It's rated R. 2 hours and 34 minutes. And the one sentence breakdown is, the lives of two mob hitmen, a boxer, a gangster, and his wife, and a pair of diner bandits intertwine in 4 tales of violence and redemption. Written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring, oh boy, John Travolta, Uma Thurman, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Tim Roth, Amanda Plummer, Laura Lovelace. Hold on, scrolling. Ving Rhames, cannot forget Ving Rhames. Eric Stoltze is in the. I know it's not his name. I just call him Stoltze. A lot of people in this movie. A lot of people get Patricia Arquette also in this movie. So we have a lot of people either on the upswing of their. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Who did I forget?
No, but I want to mention something. This is a bit of trivia that not everybody picks up on. What became her sister, Alexis Arquette. It was like her brother at one time. He was trans, who became her sister, Alexis. Have you ever seen The Wedding Singer?
Yes, I love that.
Jessica, have you seen it?
I have not.
No, all right. Well,
oh my God, he's so funny.
He played Boy George.
Classic.
He played the Boy George character.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I've seen that face before.
Yeah.
He was the one in the bathroom.
He's the one in the
And I
bathroom.
said to Emma just now. Yes, I said I've got to look him up. I literally remember him being in something, and I just can't remember what it was.
Right.
That's funny.
I think he was.
It's so familiar to me.
She was still a boy at the time, I guess, or man. But, anyways, that's Alexis Arquette.
Arquette. That's an Arquette.
Yeah,
that's an Arquette.
There's two Arquettes in the movie. They're related. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I knew.
Rosanna's in there.
I didn't know she was. Okay. Yeah.
Now, before we get started, how hard is it to watch a movie like this? I mean, it's not hard to watch it, but I'm saying, how hard is it? Like, it's sort of like a presence hanging over it whenever you see the name Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, that's who you forgot to mention, I think.
Well, he's not. He's the producer, but
executive producer or something. But
yeah.
Okay.
But it's like
I don't know.
Every time Miramax is there, it's like you see his name on stuff, and it's like a lot of Quentin Tarantino stuff. And then you hear the horror stories, like from like Rosanna Arquette and Uma Thurman. You know, like all had issues with him, and it's like it's sort of just like it's like this weird little cloud that hangs over when you're trying to watch it. It's like, oh man, those poor girls. So I'm just I'm not trying to bring.
So
it
how
down.
do we feel about that? How do we? No. It's worth investigating. Maybe we can go to Jessica because it's kind of her area a little bit. How do we feel about like? I'm not saying specifically your area, but it certainly might dovetail into something you would talk about. Maybe is that
news,
like, do we give Quentin Tarantino a pass? Do we forget? Because it seems like he's tried to distance himself from Harvey Weinstein, but the fact of the matter is, he was. They were close. He gave him a shot.
How did he not know?
Yeah. What do you think?
That's a whole different question from I thought where we were going with.
Well,
I thought we were going to say, can we enjoy the film anyway?
Yeah.
Which is an easier question
sure, all right.
maybe than did he know this about his buddy?
Well, Jessica,
who knows if he knew?
Let's answer the question that we're just throwing it out there, man. We're throwing it against the wall. Like, do we still enjoy the movie because of that tie? So I'll throw that to you.
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Tons of artists were messed up. Can I swear on?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It's the Pulp Fiction episode. So yes.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be weird?
Yes, this one gets its.
Yeah.
Yeah. No swearing, no profanity, no discussion of nudity or crude subjects. That'd be a tough conversation.
Right.
No, I think you can enjoy art because artists are fucked up. That's what makes good art, right?
Okay.
And if we were to say we can never enjoy any art if we later find out that the person who participated in making the art did bad things, I don't think that's a good way to live. But I do think we can contextualize like how that might have played into how this film was written, right? Creepy, sick people are very real. They exist in our world and do creepy, sick stuff every day. And if that's not reflected in film, maybe we haven't, accurately commented on what's happening in our society, right? That's what film's all about. We've got to have that happen. And I think also, just like Quentin Tarantino, the rumors of him having a foot fetish, and how often the scenes include close-ups on feet, discussions of feet. I think it makes our analysis of the film all the more interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Uma
going to
Thurman
go
was
out on a
barely wearing
limb.
shoes in it. She was barefoot almost the whole time.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's not even a speculation. Like, I mean, if I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
From Dusk Till Dawn, but he, sucks
Yeah.
on a woman's foot in that. Like, so that's like, and it's like that's way too much of a peek into his bedroom. But like, it's like, all right, dude, we got it. Like, you don't have to rub it in everyone's face.
Melanie, you mentioned something about Uma. Was Uma barefoot in Kill Bills in the Kill Bills?
She was a lot, but I know in this movie she hardly had shoes on, and they did mention that in the trivia. Like, she was basically walking around with no shoes on almost the entire time. And when she was dancing and other parts of it, the camera was aiming down at her feet, looking at her feet a lot.
Okay.
In Kill Bill,
Interesting.
I remember there's a whole thing, not to take it down this road, but like in Kill Bill, there's a whole thing where she's paralyzed and she says, "Move your big toe," like it's all about
That's
that.
right.
Like, you know what I mean? She could have chosen to move her leg. Anyways,
Right.
not,
And I think I'm pretty sure in Inglourious Basterds that Hitler was shoeless. So let's go on to the movie. Let's go on to Pulp Fiction. So
Hold
so
on.
what's that, Melanie? Talk to me.
All right, one quick thing is everybody's talking about how the F-bomb is constantly used in this movie. 265 times.
yeah, it broke a record at the time.
What
funny?
has
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
I
why
think
it's rated R. That's literally why it's rated R the most, is because of the
Well,
F-bomb.
I think Zed had something to do with it.
Well, okay, I
Yeah,
forgot
I think
about
Zed
that
had a
one.
lot, maybe.
Yes, you're right.
I forgot about that
Kind of
one
blocked that one
piece.
out a little bit, but yeah, you're right.
So
Hey,
all right, so-
there was
so
no
let's get in-
F-bombs, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, there could have been. I don't know.
She forgot about Zed because Zed's dead.
Right.
Right.
That's valid. Valid point. All right, so let's get into it. We're gonna break down the movie. We can go scene by scene. That's tough to do because, as we mentioned, this is an example of nonlinear storytelling. I actually have a book in front of me that maps out the story, and it's kind of goofy because it's all out of order, and because it's out of order, the director's given license. Quentin's given license to Quentin's been known to pull out all the stops. Like, I would think when you look at his movies, they kind of run like comic books. Like, they're these very stylized images. They're very stylized. I mean, there's no way around it. They're stylized images that he plans out very intently, whether feet or not, for you to look at in these very odd, jarring ways. So there's a lot to be said about being nonlinear and keeping the audience on his toes. But I want to go around. I'll start again. I don't know how you want to do this, but I would like to say, what's the most striking thing? Like, when you watch Pulp Fiction, what is the thing that sticks out the most in your head? Either the scene you can't wait for, or the style that you like the most, or maybe you dig the profanity. I kind of like the amount of times the F-bomb is dropped in the movie. It's like it's so many times it becomes like funny. Like, how many times can you weave in an F-bomb in a sentence? And an N-word for that matter. But so anyway, so I don't know. I'll go around. Maybe start with Jessica. I'll pose the question to you. Like, what's the most striking thing about this movie?
Picking one is so hard.
That's cool.
I do love what you've said about it being a comic book. And when I realized that as well, but you put words to it, was when Mia Wallace goes to the bathroom to powder her nose, and everyone's powdering their nose in the mirror, and the camera angles like as if it were in the sink or something. And everyone's putting on makeup and such, but Mia Wallace is snorting cocaine. That was the moment where I was like, so much intention went into every single shot. But I think what sticks out to me and makes this movie so unique and special is just that it's fantastical. Everything's a little bit weirder than what would happen in real life. And people even thought that Jackrabbit Slim's was a real place, because who the hell would think of that as a premise for a restaurant, right? All of the waiters are people dressed up as, Marilyn Monroe and Elvis, and they're all impersonators. And it's described, right, as a wax museum with a pulse, which is just brilliant writing. And so just overcoming this trend in movies that happens sometimes, that I think Nick Kroll put really well once, where he says, regular dialogue isn't that interesting, so why should I try that hard as a screenwriter? This was not present in this movie. All of the writing is so good, and all of the imagery and what is going on is just a step beyond reality. And I think that's what really sticks out to me. And my favorite scene, the one that just like strikes me every time and that I look forward to, like you said, is when Vincent comes to pick up Mia. That scene.
Okay.
Where she tells him to come in to get a drink, and the notes at the door, and just the way she uses the intercom.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
Follows him with the camera.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Like the way
I'll be
she's sort
down
of
in
like,
two
'cause
shakes of a lamb's tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it pans, like, like she's like following him while he's like just going to, I don't know, put his coat down or something like that. It's just kind of like total control. It was really cool.
Just watching him.
And we know that she never is not flirting with Vince. She's never not flirting with him, as far as I can tell. Maybe it's because she, like I said, her husband is Marcellus Wallace. He's never around. She's lonely. He hires people to take her out on a date. So we don't know anything about, I mean, we know stuff about her past. But the fact is she's never not flirting with him. And Vince, who is Vince, is, he's like, I'm going to keep it cool. That's why they have the discussion about giving your wife a foot massage. Are you trying to say, putting your face in the holies of holies equates to a foot massage? Sorry, I'm editing it a little bit.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, like, that intention is like, you're a dead man if you mess with Marcellus Wallace's wife, and he shows up to her place, and she is from go is messing with him, already setting up a problem. The crisis is already there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, a lesser man.
The tension, you feel it.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, a lesser man wouldn't even think that, but Vince is a lesser man. He's a crook. He's a junkie. Like, he's not a normal person. Normal person would be like, see ya. Sorry, Vince. I'm sorry. Sorry, Marcellus. Not going to deal with it.
He totally forgot.
Go ahead, Jake.
His whole thing about, you don't mess with him. And at the same time, he doesn't, he how does he forget how scary and powerful Marcellus is? I mean, like,
right.
That's the Don. That's the top of the heap right there. You're going to go for his wife?
Yeah.
Marcellus Wallace is the Yoda of this movie. He is the only one in all the stories. Or it's the C-3PO. Let's look at it that way. He's the only one that somehow features, is the linchpin of all the stories, is Marcellus Wallace. It all features in one way or another Marcellus Wallace. So he is the linchpin. He's the cog of the whole thing, except maybe the last scene with the redemption of Samuel L. Jackson. But besides that, so anywho, so that's an interesting. So that strike, Jessica, I wouldn't have picked that scene. So that's why it's a really good. That's a really neat answer. So Jay or Melanie?
Go Melanie.
What do you think? Then
I'll
we can
go
do
first, 'cause
like
I
that's how I.
forget.
By the way, that's how I want to attack the scenes, because it's hard to go scene by scene in this movie because there's so much.
Yeah.
So I'd rather say what's striking, and then we can dissect it. So Melanie, you're up to the plate. Hit it.
Okay, so I'm gonna agree with Jessica because I absolutely love that Jack Rabbit Slim scene. And like you said, I literally, when I first watched this, I thought it was a real place because it is so amazing, that set. You would never think in the world that wasn't real. And they spent $150,000 on that set, and it was the most of their budget that they spent on that set. And I was talking to my daughter about this because we had just watched it recently, and we were both thinking they should just make that. Somebody should just make that restaurant. It's just too cool of a place not to have. So one of my favorite scenes is in that restaurant, and then that whole dance that they did was basically, I don't know if many people know, but that was a complete replica, movement by movement, from something else from 1963. The two of them basically completely choreographed the entire thing. That was like a replica of something else from 1963, which was called Classic 8.5, whatever that is, but by 1963. And I know she said she was nervous for doing it because he was known as such a good dancer. She was really nervous to dance with him. So I love that scene, and one of my favorite scenes ever is the apartment scene. Like literally every single thing in that apartment scene when they go and they're trying to get that briefcase from the guys. My God, I absolutely love that scene, and I love the scene in the car where he says, "Oh, no, you must have went over a bump or something." Like, you know, when he accidentally shoots the guy, and so those two scenes right there. And I love when she overdoses, and I'll have more about that later. But Basically, anything that John Travolta is in, any of his scenes are my favorite. They are the funniest scenes ever.
Even the Pop-Tart scene?
The Pop-Tart, well, he wasn't really in that much.
I know. How great, honestly, guys,
That
how
was a
great
shocking
is that?
scene. Shocking.
I know how great is you have what is basically the lead of the first and probably the most predominant scene, and because it's told out of order, like that scene where Vince gets gunned down in the apartment, Bruce Willis's apartment, is after Samuel L. Jackson has left the criminal industries, like because he's on his own, right? So that's all of that
maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So maybe it is maintained that Samuel L. Jackson. I'll get the name in a second.
Because he got out of
Jules.
Jules.
Yeah, he got out. Jules. Yeah.
Yeah, he got
out of it
in time.
So he was. That's why he quotes the Bible right now. Maybe he's being looked after. Like maybe it's time for you to go because you're about to get gunned down, working for Marcellus Wallace. So, Jason, talk to me.
Before I do that, I just wanted to elaborate on what you were just talking about. It's like, almost like I'm only going to give you so many divine interventions. You're not going to keep getting saved. Like, you know what I mean? If you were going with the divine intervention part.
Sure. I don't know that I am 100%, but
well, there
just
are
throwing
many,
it out there.
There's lore about like what people think is in the case, and we can get to that later. But my favorite part, like that you think is that what you said? Like what do I think is striking about this?
What's the most striking? The thing that really sticks in your head when you think about Pulp Fiction?
Okay, so
what's the first thing that comes to mind?
I think the aspect of how it's not regular world per se. Like it is, you know what I mean? It's L.A., they're saying it's Los Angeles, it's in America, all that. However, there's no such thing as red apples. There's no such thing as Big Kahuna Burger. There are, and by the way, their hairstyles are not something from 1995 necessarily.
70s.
Right, like it's really out there. So like you can't really pinpoint. Yes, you feel like the rest of it's 1995. You know what I mean? Like other aspects, but not those things. Like look at the Acura. That Acura was a modern car at the time when the Wolf shows up. So there are stuff. It's not like it's saying it's in the 70s.
The Wolf.
I know, but.
The Wolf.
But like look at Samuel L. Jackson's hair, like Jules's hair, Vince's hair. People weren't wearing their hair long like that in 1995. You know what I mean? Like it was weird, but in a good way. So there is so much to it that makes it like it's almost like its own world. Like how bad do you want to go to Big Kahuna Burger? I want to try it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a tasty burger.
It's like they should put a Big Kahuna Burger next to Krusty Burger, next to the Krusty Krab. And I think that would be a wonderful little chain of
That'd be like a
restaurants.
strip mall and a half
never
right
get
there.
people out of
That'd
that.
be so cute.
Yeah, strip mall of just like these TV shows.
Yeah.
So I'm now Jessica's brought this up, and Jay just did, and Melanie, I'm gonna come to you for your opinions on this, and I'm gonna float a theory, and it's this: is that Quentin Tarantino, in all of his movies, has anachronisms that don't fit. So in this movie, it's 95, even though we have hairstyles from the 70s, and we go to a 50s, even though it's a theme bar, it still goes a lot of 50s. I mean, she says daddy-o.
Yeah.
Hello. You know what I mean? We have a lot of that nomenclature, right? And in Django Unchained, we have, there's the guy wearing sunglasses. In Inglourious Bastards,
I never really thought about it.
they actually kill Hitler at the end of Inglourious Bastards, right? Kill Bill, and Jessica, I'm sorry, back me up on this, is a comic book. I mean, she kills 88 people, even though it wasn't really 88 people. And there's a volume 2, and it's so like 70s, like kung fu movie that you'd see on Sadiki TV in the middle of the night. I maintain that all these movies, and I'm not the first to say this, is Quentin Tarantino's universe. And it doesn't have to make sense. Things don't have to be right in time. You can have something in the 90s with people acting in the 70s, listening to movies from the 50s. You can have Hitler be killed. You can have the Uma Thurman and Kill Bill float across the room and kill 88 people, and have the blood spray out of the head like a hose that's pink, by the way, not even the right color of blood. And I maintain that Pulp Fiction is in the real world, but it's Quentin Tarantino's universe that he built. And that's why he says he's going to do 10 movies. Because I think those 10 movies all fit in his fictional universe. Now, to be fair, I have not seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Me either.
I have
I
not
love
seen... is it good?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Okay, so I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
I could not finish The Hateful Eight because it's horrible to watch. Anybody on Hateful Eight?
Yeah, I saw it. I liked it.
I don't recommend. I did not like it. It was too much. Like, if you have a problem with the N-bomb, then it's like in Despicable People in Pulp Fiction, Hateful Eight is a rough watch. But I maintain that there's that level of fantasy. And I want to know if, A, you can see where I'm coming from. Do you think I'm full of shit? Or is this, do you think it's just like self-indulgent bullcrap on the part of Quentin Tarantino to make his own universe and only make 10 movies and say, I'm out of here? Or is it a credit to Quentin Tarantino that he can make this stuff that just doesn't, you have a glowing briefcase, guys. There's a glowing briefcase and we don't question it. We don't go, oh yeah, it's a glowing briefcase. It's probably his soul. And nobody bats an eye. Is that a credit to Quentin Tarantino as a filmmaker? And that he can make up an entire universe and we go, okay? Or is it just that he got in the zeitgeist early with Pulp Fiction and now he can just make whatever? I throw it to you. Like, is it good filmmaking? Or are we just like, if anybody else did it, would we say that's just screwy?
I mean, how can you watch this film and think that Quentin Tarantino is capable of doing anything unintentionally?
Absolutely.
Right? Everything has been thought through fully, and so it's
1000%.
not an accident that like the hairstyles don't fit the timeline and it's supposed to be in this other timeline. No, I think he just took his favorite stuff and the stuff that he imagined in his brain, which doesn't follow any kind of linear coherence, right? It's all imagination, it's all art. I don't think it needs to make sense in terms of eras or anything like that. Is it a universe that exists in his brain? I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe all of the movies are supposed to be in the same universe. I don't know. I think him making only 10 films is interesting because maybe it's this sort of thing where it's like, this is the art that I've got. And if he feels like he doesn't have something worth sharing, you don't need to share it. I think there's this unnecessary pressure on creative people where it's like, you did such a good thing. Why aren't you doing this all the time? And it's because I think there's limited creative energy, right? You need to like experience things and accumulate, I don't know, this creative energy, and then you can put it into something. I think some people have a lot of creative energy and they can do it all the time. And maybe it's a muscle you can exercise. But I don't know. I think I'm in the camp that if you're trying to push stuff out all the time for the sake of doing things, it's not going to be as good. And so I think he's just careful about what he puts out because he wants it to be good, because he's a real artist.
I don't have any take on that myself. I'm just kind of throwing it against the wall. I mean, I think we can agree. I would rather an artist stop than just push out a bunch of garbage.
We could be on Pulp Fiction 11 right now.
All right. Pulp Fiction 3.5. Okay, so back to Pulp Fiction. Interesting note, and I'm wondering what you all think of this. Again, I just have ideas. What is it about this movie where how do you think Quentin Tarantino so successfully makes us like people that are terrible? They're all kind of terrible people. They're criminals, they're murderers. They throw fights, they kill people. Some of the wives are a little annoying, per a conversation we had earlier. So what is it about that his characters are all horrible people, yet we're into it? Like, what? How does he do that? Anybody at all?
Because it's comedy. I mean, they're not just horrible all the time. You see different sides of them to begin with, and even when they're doing something horrible, like when they killed the guy in the back seat by an accident, they made it funny because he was like, I don't know what happened. I didn't mean to kill him. You must have went over a bump or something. Like, it was like, and then you start laughing because he went over a bump, and you're not thinking of this poor kid that just got killed, because you're thinking about how funny that was, what his reaction was, because he didn't mean to do it. And you know, just everything about it, just the way they do everything. Like when he walked in through the apartment, he goes, "Hey, flock of seagulls," you know, like he's just like,
Yeah.
you know, yelling about the guy
Yeah.
on the couch, or it's just everything they do. I mean, they make a scene where, you know, somebody's ODing, and you think, oh my God, that's such a serious thing that this girl is ODing. And then you go into this, that whole thing was so comic, it was insane. Like he was like sitting there going, you know, you have to do this. And he goes, so I have to stab her 3 times? No, you don't have to stab her 3 times. Or when he's saying like, you do it, no, you do it. No, the next time that I bring some ODing bitch over your house, then that's the time I give a shot. Right now you're doing it. It's just this, like every single thing that even, no matter how bad it is, it makes it funny at the same time. So it's comedy. It's just the way Quentin Tarantino's brain works. He is super creative, and he gets you to like the characters, and you love the characters.
So Melanie, I think if I'm hearing you properly, I think what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. I think if I hear you correctly, and anybody can jump in, is that the conversations that these people have, even though they're not, I wouldn't want to hang out with them. I don't think anybody in this podcast would be like, I want to have a night with Vince, see what that's like, right? I don't think anybody's saying that.
See if I make it to tomorrow.
Yeah, right. I don't think that's a good idea. However,
but okay.
But well, maybe. But we're getting a lens into this world that we, as quote unquote normal law-abiding people, understand, and we look into their world, even though they are involved in horrible things. And Melanie, correct me if I don't hear you correctly. We're hearing them have normal person conversations.
Yeah.
Right? It's not all like Al Pacino and Scarface. They're talking about. That's why half the dialogue about this movie isn't about the movie. They're talking about Royale with cheese.
The Big Mac.
Talking about foot massages.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're talking about. Give me another example. Somebody.
Well, Jules is always talking about the Bible. What he
Yeah,
believes in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, can we say then that the comedy is there, and the reason we find it funny is maybe because we're looking into this horrible dark world, but in Quentin Tarantino's world, they kind of talk like us. They've made some bad choices. Their bad choices are worse than our bad choices. I think that is fair to say. I don't know. I've only met Jessica, but that was a joke. But maybe that's why we get so much glee out of it. It's like, hey, they're just like us. I don't know. Am I way off base?
I would. No, I think that's right. I would take it a step further, though, than just the conversation, the dialogue, how they talk. Like, I would also say, we get some sense of justice, right? They all have some idea of justice, and it's different for all of them. They all have their own values set, just like we do, and they all struggle with it, I think, just like we do. And I believe they're likable because we see our humanity in them. Mm-hmm. They show their humanity to us through various things, right? Like, Butch, not a great guy, but we get a glimpse into what his childhood was like and how he lost his father, and how open Coons was about how his father died and what happened in Vietnam and what happened with the watch, which is a lot for a young kid to be exposed to. And so this intergenerational trauma of like coming from the family that was led by a veteran who died in the Vietnam War is huge. We get a sense of what it's like for Mia Wallace to be like the lonely spouse to someone who's the head of this mob, right? We get little glimpses of their humanity, right? Mia is just starving for something other than small talk in that date, which is so relatable. And just Jules struggling with religion and questioning his life's path. I think all of it is just these little pieces of humanity that we all experience as well, and it makes them likable.
Mm-hmm. And I think we want to watch honorable people. We want to root for honorable people. And this movie is an example of honor among thieves. And the best example of that, and I'll bring up, not my favorite scene because it might paint me as odd. That's not the road I go down to. But I got to bring up the scene with the Kemp. So, and I'm not judging. Whatever you're into is fine. However, the rednecks deserve it in this movie. Mm-hmm. And when Butch, and Jay, whenever I see the scene of Marcellus Wallace crossing the street with the donuts, I always go back to The Simpsons, Pulp Fiction. Hey, I know you. But it's just Jay knows what I'm talking about. Maybe you two do as well. But I know Jay and I talk about it a lot. But anyhow, so we see Butch, who has thrown the fight. his life is in danger. He's trying to get out of town. He's not only thrown a fight, he's killed a person. He's trying to get out of town. He goes back for the watch. He successfully gets his watch. And you're like, oh, he's all set. And then he comes back, and he's at a stoplight or a stop
first
sign.
he kills Vincent.
He kills Vince. You're right. He kills Vince. So he gets away. Like you think he's on the road. He's good to go. He finally gets a new path. And completely out of the blue, Marcellus Wallace is crossing the street by himself. Does he have a box of donuts?
Yeah, 2 coffees.
It looks like he does, yeah.
He has a box of donuts.
Because he's heading
a mass like murderer.
He's heading back to Vincent.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's all.
So
okay.
Vincent's waiting
Right.
in the apartment.
So
they probably got bored waiting for and he's like, I'm gonna get some coffees, and then
right,
gets hit by a car.
So they end up in they fight. Right.
Yeah.
Well, after the
They
fight,
end up in
they both come
their-
to.
Hits him with the car.
Oh, they hits him with the car. Thank you. I'm sorry. I watched it a few days ago. I just couldn't remember exactly. But they end up by the end of the day, they end up in the pawn shop, and they both end up in the basement of the pawn shop with the rednecks. And boy, when there's a moment that you didn't know that was going to happen, when you see Bruce Willis tied up, and then somebody says, "Bring out the gimp," and they open a box, and a man dressed in leather walks out of that box, and that's one of those moments like, this is not wow, like that just makes your, like, of all the things you would have expected just then, torture, sure, punching them a lot, sure, a man in a leather suit coming out of a box, I didn't see that coming.
I think that was
he
Vincent
doesn't
Arquette's real husband.
really.
I think I read something like that, yeah.
I don't know, man. I see people wear leather pants. I say, how? A whole suit? I don't know, man. Anyhow,
The mouth cover
but the
thing
bottom
would kill
line.
me. I'd feel so claustrophobic in that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
my god.
But then
Can
we
we
have
turn up the air conditioning because the ball gag is really making me sweat.
right. But then we have
sorry.
to discuss what happens after.
All right, so tell me, Jay, what happens
I mean,
after?
the sick, twisted bastard that gets brought in, Zed. We've mentioned him before. He ends up doing some stupid childhood game where he, like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and he's trying to pick between the two of them. Lands on Marcellus Wallace. They take him into the room. They end up raping him. Now, Bruce Willis, Butch, gets away scot-free. He breaks free, punches the gimp. Now, it's not far-fetched if a boxer punches you with one punch and you go down and stay down. You know what I mean? Like, he knows what he's doing. So he goes upstairs. Now, I gotta say, this is so. It's one of those scenes. Now, is it hard to watch? Absolutely. Is it disgusting? Absolutely. But it's one of those. It's really fascinating, and I'll tell you why. Because these are two.
Tell me why,
No,
Jay.
because these are two mortal enemies. Okay, they were ready to kill each other, absolutely kill each other, because Bruce. I'm sorry, I always go to the actor. Butch took. He was paid to take a dive in a fight. He decided to fight back and win anyway, and he bet on himself, type of thing. So he was going to escape with all the money. Now, that's a big problem to somebody who's in the gangster world. You know what I mean? For instance, Marcellus was about to sick dogs on his trainer, on Butch's trainer, just to see if he knows anything. That's how much they hated each other. Okay, Butch was about to kill Marcellus, and vice versa. Now, as if aliens were to come over and attack every city in the world, how much would all the countries hate each other at that moment? Right? Like, they would turn and be focused on a bigger enemy. All right, a bigger enemy was introduced to a point where Butch goes upstairs. He could leave. He could have just he grabbed the keys already. He could have left. What happens? He's like, what's happening downstairs is not right. I was about to kill and was about to kill me still doesn't deserve what's going on. He doesn't even know yet fully. Yeah. And then goes and I love how, after he finally comes upon whatever weapon, and it's a samurai sword, and goes and stabs the first wackadoodle, and then goes after Zed, and basically Marcellus could have killed Butch right there. He says, "Step aside, Butch," and then shoots Zed right in the crotch, and then basically says, "All right, fine. If you leave L.A., and never come back, we're cool." It's like that's pretty good. You know what I mean? A larger enemy was introduced, and stopped them from wanting to kill each other.
I maintain that it's also, again, it's the honor among thieves. Like, even though we are enemies, like, nobody deserves what Marcellus Wallace is going through.
And he saved him.
Like, nobody deserves that. Like, and he saved him. And you're right, it is also ballsy, because Marcellus Wallace could have just turned the gun immediately on Bruce Willis, then killed the other guys. But he doesn't. So they recognize the honor amongst each other in this moment. And what I think is an interesting character play, because Bruce Willis is about he's trying to honor his father's legacy, right? Like, he find out about his father dying in Vietnam. He's made some poor choices, and now he wants to just move on and just to get away honorably as much as possible. And so I think honor is that big thing. It's what you're attached to, and he just couldn't let it go. So I agree with you. It's a common enemy, but it's also this Quentin Tarantino's idea of kind of honor among thieves. This is how we interact with each other, and it's a very brave choice for Butch to make. So yeah, it's one of the deeper moments in the movie as far as I'm concerned. It's just neat.
Yeah, I like the idea that Jay pointed out, that they're mortal enemies, because I never felt like they were mortal enemies. And that's interesting, because they have a purely transactional relationship, right? It's all about money. I'm going to bet on this boxing match. You're going to go down in the fifth on purpose. You're going to make a bunch of money. I'm going to make a bunch of money. That's our relationship. When he violated that relationship, it wasn't like he stands for values that are completely different from Marcellus's. He just got in the way of the money. So I don't know. Does that make them mortal enemies? Maybe not, because I don't know. They seem to agree on their values, that what was going on down there is wrong. And so I don't know if they were mortal enemies, but I think him going back and saving him could be like convenience, right? I'm going to make sure that this guy owes me one, because he could very well send people after me to come take my life. Or it could be reflections on his father being in that camp in Vietnam. What was going on when his father was being held, right? And wanting to go back and save, Marcellus, who also had something up his ass. So there's that parallel as well. For his father, it was the watch. For Marcellus, it was something else.
Yeah.
But I also like that Tarantino paints these Confederate rednecks, right? They have the flag on the door. As these terrible sickos. I think it's an interesting political statement as well.
Okay.
And I think that's interesting. Just to reflect on the fact that these two guys, one of them works in security, right? He's got a uniform on. It's this idea that, especially now, like, the right in America is, taking away gay rights, which is insane. It's 2022, and, they're voting against protecting gay marriage. And here is this person who is depicted as, a white dude who has a Confederate flag up, and what is he doing? He's raping another man. And so I think there's something political going on here as well.
Okay. So it's kind of like the people that are against pornography are the biggest pornographers, like that sort of thing. Like wasn't the again, not a fan, Larry Flint. Larry Flint was paying people to out people in Congress that, like, found hookers. And they all, like, we're going after you. You're a bottom feeder. They would call Larry. I don't like Larry Flint, for the record. But they call him a bottom feeder. And he's like, yeah, I'm a bottom feeder, and you're all down here with me. So maybe that's kind of what he's alluding to, right? Like, you think you're so right, but you're really not that right. Super. That's fantastic. Where else you want to go with this movie?
I have a couple trivia facts that were kind of interesting.
Sure.
Bring it, Melanie. What you got?
So the 64 Chevelle Malibu convertible, driven by Vincent, was actually Tarantino's actual car, and it was stolen during the production of the filming, and he did not get it back until 2013.
Wow.
And the bad motherfucker wallet is Tarantino's actual wallet.
That's cool. All right.
And they're supposed to say Zed and Maynard are actually brothers. They're supposed to be brothers. In the screenplay, they said they're brothers. And now this was kind of cute, and I think this is so cute. So when Vincent, you remember when Vincent calls Lance on the phone, and Lance is like ignoring, the phone forever, and he's sitting there eating some cereal. Well, the cereal is and if you look at the box, it's called Fruit Brute, and it was a discontinued cereal. It was real, but it was a discontinued cereal. That's Tarantino's box of cereal that he has kept for all of these years, and he puts it in different scenes in different movies throughout his career. So I thought that was
It's one of
Okay.
the monster cereals. You know, the Count Chocula?
Yes, it is. Yeah, but not the
Yeah,
other
it's
monster
one of those
cereals
that
we know.
they branched out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't get enough marshmallows and quote unquote cereal. We need to get different types and different
And
colors.
it was also a
his-
159-page
More
screenplay.
marshmallows.
He wrote by hand. He didn't type anything out. He wrote it all by hand, and it was like humongous. And when he gave it over to, when they gave it to Harvey Weinstein to read, he kind of just threw it and said, "What the hell is this? A fucking telephone book?" Like he's like,
Nice.
it's the best. So I just had to add a couple of those in.
You realize that we barely
Yeah.
talked about Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
I love him in
Like,
this.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
super important.
He's so good.
Let's just say this. You can't, and well, before we go to Final Judgment, let's just say this to cover Samuel L. Jackson. He is every character on this screen in this movie you can't take your eyes off of, right? You just want to watch what they're doing. You want to hear what they're saying. All the characters, maybe except the ones that annoy you, Jay. But all the characters you're hanging on, and Samuel L. Jackson is the top of that pyramid. Of all the people you want to focus on what's happening, it's Samuel L. Jackson because he is Shaft. And he's doing Neo Shaft, and it's beautiful and epic to watch because you haven't seen that, well, since Shaft. And I dare say, probably does it better than Shaft, which is probably why he eventually got the role of said Shaft in the movie Shaft. So, that's all we can say about that. He nails it. There's no way around it.
He's the best.
He is perfect. He's intimidating, and he is caring, and he's earnest all at once, all the time. Again, the fact that he has the Ezekiel 7:14 is memorized, and he doesn't even know why. You think it's something deep, and it's not. It's just what he says. It's just some shit I said to scare motherfuckers or whatever it is. Shows that he knows his job. Part of his job is an act, and he's got to put forth his bad motherfucker energy in order to get the job done. But maybe he's not that guy.
Well, he says
And maybe
let's get
that's
into
why he
character.
wants to get out of this. Yeah,
He says it right before
he's
they're
really
about to
not
enter
that guy.
Brad's
You're right.
apartment or whatever his name is.
Right.
Right.
So he's just good at what he does. You know what I mean?
He's the best.
Maybe he's got a heart of gold. He's just real good at what he does because he's intimidating.
No, I think it's great. This was his first hit film, right? And Pulp Fiction today gets a lot of criticism for all of the rampant racism throughout the film. But it's never done in a way where it seems like Tarantino wants to affirm these ideas. And I think so many films avoided discussing race, and many films didn't have black actors in them, almost as if you want to imagine a world where black people don't exist. That is far more racist than accurately depicting the racial tensions of the time. And that's hugely important. And to have Samuel L. Jackson, who is one of the very few black actors who's on like the top 10 list of most top grossing films, he got a start in this film. And so I think that's an interesting thing to think about surrounding this movie as well. Like, what was Tarantino's true intention with including all of
I'm
that?
glad that you said that because I wasn't sure how to encapsulate that idea, how we get away with all of that profanity. And I think that pretty much, I couldn't wrap my head around how I wanted to say it, and you just conveyed it. So I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I'm serious. No, I know I wanted to say,
to do that.
I've always thinking about how I want to say that, but you just got it. So that's fantastic. I'm stealing that forever. All right.
No, you know what? Real quick,
Patent
before
pending.
final judgment, before we do, it
Yep.
could probably include it or whatever. But I just want to say that any type of problem that anyone's going to have with this, it's not because the N-word's being used. It's because of white guys saying it. Like, you know what I mean? And the director and / writer of the film. So I can see and not blame anyone for having an issue with it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, so like if he's and it's set in modern times, well, not modern today, but like, you know, modern 1995. It was still, you know, what I'm saying is if you set it in the 1800s, it's not very surprising to hear like a bunch of people using it because it's, you know what I mean? Like it was around whatever, you know what I mean? Like it was. Do you guys agree? Disagree?
I agree with you. In fact, the evidence of I'll
know.
agree with you to this level. The evidence of that is in Django Unchained, where Samuel L. Jackson plays the head of a plantation household and treats the African American slaves like he were a white person.
Yeah.
So he kind of broaches that idea. He treats the slaves miserably, calls them N-bombs like the white guys would, the slaveholders would,
Right.
and says terrible, terrible things. So maybe that's a way that he's kind of nudging at that, of kind of looking at the racism head on and not avoiding the language, and then letting us decide how we feel about that language in that context. Because in Django Unchained, it's absurd to see Samuel L. Jackson using that word in the context that he's using it, in defamation of the slaves that are on the plantation, whereas using the exact same words in Pulp Fiction in a different context, and you go, oh, okay. Know what I mean? So maybe that's his way of addressing it. It's ballsy. I wouldn't, but I'm not, you know.
I would agree that, like, of course, you should not use the N-word. You should not say terribly racist things today. But acknowledging that this is film, and acknowledging that there's so many people who are terribly racist in the United States today, who are saying things exactly like this all day long. I think representing that in film and holding it up to people like a mirror. Like, this is happening today all the time. But when they see it on screen, it evokes a different kind of reflection than the typical looking away from it happening in our society all of the time. And so I think it's, is it wrong to do that? Yes. But depicting it in film when it happens every day all the time, I don't think is a wrong
It's
of
you know what?
Tarantino,
Don't we
actually.
we want honesty in the filmmaking, and if you don't want to see it, don't. It's just, this movie's not for you, and that's fine. Like, it's just not for you, and that's cool. Like, there's other movies that are just as entertaining or whatever. So I think that's a very good point. It is that films are absolutely a mirror of the times. And, Melanie, horror movies are even more than this movie, is more of a reflection of what's going on at the time, and we'll discuss that when we watch more horror movies.
All right. Let's hit final judgment.
Sorry.
Ready?
Let's do it.
It's time now for final judgment. Are you ready to rubber stamp this bitch? Here's the final judgment.
All right, so now's the time. We already said whether we like the movie. That's not the point of the podcast. We want to see if it actually holds up over 27 years. Oh God. Hold on. Wait a minute. I have to get my. So we're gonna go around. We're gonna decide whether or not it stands up. I'd like to start with Jessica, and then we'll go Jessica. Let's go Jessica, me, Melanie, Jay. How's that?
Sure.
Sound good? Sorry, let's do it. All right, Jessica, hit it.
All right, yes and why is, I think it accurately depicts the kind of moral dilemmas we all face in our everyday lives, but in a hyperbolic way, of course. Most of us in this call are probably not out, killing people on the weekend or working for someone like Marcellus Wallace. However, I think we all wonder, what it all means, and what is good and what is bad, and what constitutes a good life. And Samuel L. Jackson having his struggle with religion, and the initial scene with Honey Bunny and Spouse, where he's having a similar struggle, a parallel struggle with religion, and whether or not he should stop doing what he's doing. And there's also this theme that's been pointed out that Marcellus Wallace is the common denominator in every scene, which almost suggests that Marcellus Wallace is representing a god in the movie. And these are all timeless things that human beings, I think, will be thinking about forever and ever, right? I don't think we'll discover the answers to life and the meaning of it and what's good and bad. And so when he goes on that rant about God and passing down vengeance from his ruler, he's really passing down vengeance from Marcellus Wallace. And so I think sometimes in life we get caught up in thinking something that is the most powerful force in our life is like a god, and we kind of orbit it. And I think this movie is a really accurate criticism and commentary on, people losing who their God is, right? Is it the spiritual relationship between you and something beyond this? Are you caught up in worldly powers, doing things you don't want to be doing? And because it's so timeless with that commentary, I think it's going to stand the test of time for a while.
Okay, super. Thank you. Very insightful. That was that was fantastic. I will go. So I would say, again, I love the movie. I do think it holds up. I think it holds up. I'm not going to, Jessica took a lot of stuff on the themes, so I'm not going to point to those. I am going to point at it because they're all fantastic. I'm going to point to it from a filmmaking standpoint. I think it is a movie. A lot of times that movies age is because the audience themselves, the tastes change. Like back in the day, a slower, languid movie would be something that you wanted to see, but now everything has to be quick cut and action and fast, and you got to be spoon fed a lot of things. I hate it when films spoon feed me or hit me over the head with symbolism, right? And this movie is, from a filmmaking standpoint, I think will always stand the test of time because it leaves a lot of it open to the interpretation of the viewer, like what you're taking out of it. What Jessica took out of it, I would agree, like 75% of it. And that's okay, because that's the point of the movie. It's like reading literature. When you read literature, you're taking something different out of it than I would have. And that's why forums like this and podcasts like this are good, because you're hearing things you never would have thought of because you weren't looking at it that way. And movies like this allow that discussion. So to that end, it has to hold up. And because the filmmaking itself is so bonkers, because of the nonlinear storytelling, because of the characters, because of the anachronisms, because you don't know what you're watching at any time, how can you be bored with it? How can you not want to watch it? And so at the end of the day, yeah, it holds up. But I will say also that it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? I don't know how much you got to be cautious recommending this to some people, I think, right? It's not over the top, like, I don't know, what's the vampire movie with the Mexico
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, recommending that's a little rough. I don't think, you got to really warn people about that movie. I don't think you need to warn people about Pulp Fiction. You just got to be aware of maybe why don't you start with Reservoir Dogs? See how you feel about that. Move on to Inglourious Bastards, and then watch Pulp Fiction, and then we'll have a discussion. So that's what I think. Melanie, to you then,
okay,
Jay.
So I definitely think it holds up. And it's
okay.
It's strange, like we were saying, even though it was filmed in the 90s, it just doesn't seem like it's a 90s movie. It just kind of seems like it's from a different time, and you can't really put your finger on exactly where it's being filmed from. Is it the 70s? Is it the 80s? You just can't kind of figure it out. So again, with timepieces, it doesn't seem dated at all. It's not like it doesn't seem dated in any way to me. I know it holds up because I showed it to teenagers and other people that liked it, the other day. So it's not like it's something that you had to grow up with to appreciate. I think you could show it to anybody that would appreciate it, unless they're, one of those people that just can't handle a swear word or or a little bit of a sex scene that you can fast forward. Seriously, you'd have to be a little bit prude-like.
Or a gimp.
To not be able to handle a few swears, because there's only one bad part in it, which was that scene that we don't like. But you could fast forward it if you wanted to. The rest of it, there's so many.
Not if you don't know it's coming.
They don't even show blood and guts. I don't know. I can't imagine somebody having a big problem with it. But I don't know. I think it definitely holds up. And you had a lot more, Jessica, reasons as to why. I don't have huge reasons as to why. I just know I love it, and I just can't imagine it being dated in any way. And I love Quentin Tarantino. It just seems like it's not. It doesn't seem like it's a movie that was like in a certain era that you would think everything in this movie is out of touch and out of time. It doesn't seem like that at all in any way.
Mm-hmm. I like that phrasing, that it's not out of touch. Like, it'll never be out of touch because it makes great lengths to interact or hit those points with the audience. It can't be out of touch. So that's fantastic. Jason, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's the microphone that says "bad motherfucker." Sorry.
No, it's fine. There's like a couple of things in the lore. You know, like you had already mentioned the soul that some people think is in the case, and there's other. You know, I'm gonna run through them real quick because yes, I do think it holds up, but I think because things like this and many more others, but like 2 examples I'm going to give you, and then that gives you that would get people to talk. And if a movie keeps allowing people to have debates over it, you know, it's, to me, something like that absolutely stands up because it still affects you to where you can go, no, I don't think so. You know, like, I don't think it's that. Like, for instance, there's examples on why people think it's the Marcellus Wallace's soul inside the briefcase, that he sold his soul to the devil, and you know, they were going to get it back. There's the combination of 666 on the briefcase. They say in the Bible, if you get the soul taken from you, he sucks it out of the back of your head. He's got a big Band-Aid back there. I mean, there's things like that you know, people can debate back and forth. I'm not asking everybody to debate this right now. I'm just giving you an example of there's something that people would absolutely have a big old long discussion that would take another hour and whatever to discuss all those. The other thing is, here's another weird thing that people brought up. Every time Vincent goes to the bathroom, something bad happens. He went to the bathroom for the most part, right? Except for, I guess, the only time it didn't was at Jackrabbit Slim's. Or she went to the bathroom, right? Yeah, so he didn't even go to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom at the apartment, at her place, and she ODs. He goes to the bathroom at Butch's place. He gets killed when he comes out. What was the third one? You went to the bathroom at the restaurant, and then the place gets
you're
hold
You're right. You're totally
by Honey Bunny, and you know. So I'm just saying, like, there's so much that people can discuss about this, and you know, I mean, if you watch it, you could debate back and forth all the different angles on why, and I bet you he probably is not quick to tell you why because he wants you to do that. So absolutely holds up, and I think we all love it.
Super. I think also Quentin would also laugh at some of the things that we conjecture, and he would just say, "Dude, I just did some random shit. Like, I had nothing else," and that's okay too. Right. Like, and he's not gonna tell us, right, which is fine. I don't want him to. That's legit. So, all right. Well, our opinions are now fact. It's been etched in stone, and be the foundation of our podcast. The Pulp Fiction stands up to the test of time. So while we'll wrap it up here, I'd like to thank Jessica Burbank, our guest again. Thank you very much, Jessica. Fantastic. Again, tell us where we can find you on the internet.
Thanks, y'all, for having me. This was great. Yeah, I'm on TikTok. I actually had the thought watching this film that it's so successful, or would be, and would still be today, because every scene could be a TikTok. Yeah. It's that engaging. Mm-hmm. But I'm on TikTok. That's a big thing that I do. Cub Burbank on there. Twitter, I post when I go live on TYT, but you can always tune in at tyt.com/live.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Again, I'd like to extend a gracious thank you to Melanie and Jay and myself. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Spread the word. If you know people that like movies, like movie podcasts, we're kind of a new game in town, been around a while, but we're trying to get the word out there. Tell them about the premise of the show if you can. That certainly kind of usually hooks some people like never heard that before. But until next time, I want to thank everybody again from myself and Jay and Melanie This is Chris, and thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for listening to Film Crickets, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Film Crickets, chirp about movies.